Hello. Why is this called consent in Korean? And in Korean, what does it mean if you're invited to an MT? Should you go? We'll talk about that and other English words in Korean today. So in this series, we've been discussing English loanwords in Korean, where the meaning of the English has been changed or altered. That is semantic alteration, English loanwords with semantic alteration. We'll talk about more of these today, as well as some words with other alterations. And so specifically today, we are going to talk about Korean words that are shortened from English words. We'll talk about some blends of Korean and English elements together in the same compound word. And we'll also talk a little bit about a couple of words that are not actually from English, but people might think they are. So let's actually start with that last category. So words in Korean from non-English sources, and a lot of people, especially Koreans, might assume that these are from English, and they're not. The first one, the most famous example, is abbreviated, or shortened to ada, which means part-time or temporary work. So for example, you're doing alba work at a convenience store, or some part-time or temp work in an office or something like that. That's alba or abbreviated, part-time work. So that actually comes from the German Arbeit, which is the German word for work. And this apparently came in from German to Japanese and then from Japanese into Korean. And again, it's from German. Another word from German in Korean, and Koreans may not know it's from German. This is an older word, hoppe, for bar or pub, and it's from the German word Hof. Now, in German, it has a number of different meanings. It used to mean bar or pub in German, but not so much in modern German. Likewise, in older Korean, like back in the 20th century, this was sometimes used for a bar or pub, hoppe. And not so much today, though. You do see it occasionally, though, in signs for some bars, but most often today, Koreans just call it suljip, or liquor house for bar or pub. Now, moving on to blends of Korean and English elements. I have a couple of examples where a Korean word element is combined with an English word element for a kind of novel compound word. The first one is molka, which is from the Korean mole, which is an adjective or adverb meaning hidden, plus camera for a hidden camera. And this has gotten attention in the news in Korea in recent years with news reports of illegal hidden cameras found in public places. Very bad. Another such word is katakal for box cutter. These things. It is a blend of cutter or cutter rendered in Korean plus kal for knife. So katakal. Next, we have several abbreviations. One is FM, so not FM radio, but this stands for Field Manual or Army Field Manual. So this actually has two meanings. So the second one is not known, I think, for many Koreans, just a few certain contexts. Generally in Korean, this refers to, say, somebody who likes to do things by the book, by the manual. So for example, maybe you have a boss, you would say he or she is very FM. The boss wants things done exactly by the book or done exactly in his way or her way, following protocol, strict protocol, very procedural. So my manager is very FM, so no flexibility, had to do everything, his way. Um, that's the main meaning that most Koreans know. Now, I have encountered another meaning of this, although this was in one context only. This was at a university in Seoul, and other Koreans I've asked don't seem to be familiar with this meaning. So sometimes in Korean culture, after work, you might go out with your coworkers for what's called 회식, or company dinner. This is a bit less common today, but one time in Seoul, a bunch of professors went out for Huisik, and they did this weird ritual where they would go around the table and each person would stand up and kind of loudly in a shouting voice introduce himself or herself and say a cheer for the university and then make a toast and then drink a shot of liquor. They call this FM, but other Koreans I've asked don't know this usage. For most Koreans, it's the main meaning, by the book, doing things by the book. That's FM. Another abbreviation in Korean from English, based on English, is AS, or after service, efterservice. So this refers to customer service, product repair, basically. So let's say I've got a new device, and after a month it stops working properly and I need to take it back. I will contact AS, which is really like customer service for repair, and I will have them take the device, repair it, and send it back to me. Now, that's kind of not unusual, but there is another cultural difference here with AS. Let's say I just bought this device. Maybe I just bought a new phone, and right away it doesn't work. Now, in other countries, at least in North America and Europe, I would be entitled to demanding my money back or say, hey, give me a new one and exchange it. Now, in Korean, it doesn't necessarily work like that. Again, in Korean, even if I just bought it, they would still use AS. I would take it back to the store, they would send it off to be repaired, and then I would go pick it up again. So you would use AS for that kind of customer service repair, after service repair. MT stands for membership training. If you're invited to MT, there's no training involved at all. It's a social thing, it's a social gathering. One example would be you're in college, maybe you're an exchange student here in Korea, and your classmates are invited to an MT. It's really like a retreat or an outing, a class retreat or outing. You're going to go off somewhere, maybe some meeting place somewhere else in town or out of town, maybe a retreat center out of town. And you're going to eat and play games and drink, maybe spend the night there perhaps. It's a social thing. It's a retreat or outing. This is less common now, but companies used to do this, a company MT, a company retreat or outing at a retreat center. Again, it's just a social thing. There's no real training involved. Next, we have some Korean words that are just shortened from longer English words, what we would call in linguistics truncated or truncations, that is, shortened forms. So first of all, there's band, which could mean a music band, a rock band, but also it's shortened from bandage, a band, a bandage on your cut. Next is limokun, which is shortened from remote control. Limokun, limokun is remote control. Aircon is air conditioner or air conditioning. And so Koreans will say aircon, not AC. But in English, we don't say aircon. We would say AC for air conditioning or air conditioner. Or a more technical term, if you're in an office or maybe a house with a newer system, if you have like heating, ventilation, air conditioning together as like one system, one mechanical system, they call it HVAC. That's a bit more of a technical term for heating, ventilation, air conditioning. Finally, consent for electrical outlets. Why? Why is it called consent? It's like, do I have to ask permission? Like, oh, excuse me, can I plug this in? Oh, thank you. Okay. Yeah, this is a little odd. I've looked this up, and students first told me and where it comes from. And this is short actually for concentric circles. Concentric or concentric circles, because supposedly it's in the form of concentric circles, that is, circles that share the same center are concentric, shared or with centers. But I don't see how this is really concentric. It doesn't look like concentric circles. This is like, yeah, here's like one circle and there are two little circles in there. This is, by the way, kind of what you call a type F plug. I'll talk actually more about this in another video. I'm going to go in more in depth comparing electricity and electrical systems between Korea and the US. So I'll say more later on. But yeah, this is internationally known as a type F plug. There's also a type C plug. Both are commonly used here in Korea, but it doesn't look like concentric. So I'm not sure exactly where this came from. Supposedly this came from English through Japanese into Korean, but that makes even less sense because Japanese don't even use anything like this. They use a totally different plug. Unless it's maybe a variant of a type F plug that has some little kind of knob or pin in the center, and I'm not sure what that's for. And I personally haven't seen it, or maybe an older type E plug, but I've never seen type E plugs in Korea. So if any of you are Koreans with a background in electrical engineering or electricity, and you know more about the history behind this term, please let me know. I'm dying to know. But apparently, somehow they viewed some of these plugs as concentric circles. Now, in English, we would call it an outlet or an electrical outlet. Where I grew up in Texas, we called it a plug-in, and other English speakers in some places might call it a socket, a wall socket, electrical socket. The more general term is outlet, an electrical outlet or wall outlet. So that is a consent, and it's not because you're asking permission to plug something in, but it's supposedly somehow concentric circles, somehow. And if you know more about why, please let me know. So that's it for English Wiki today. Next time, we will talk more about unique creative word blends in Korean from English words, where different English words were blended together to create totally new words. That's coming up next time. So until then, keep learning. See you later. Goodbye.